I've been up here. It's so nice to be back. Been a while.
We saw you at Smoke Center about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember. This was telling my husband. Yeah.
That was nice.
No, thanks. It's been a long couple of years of music shutdown, kind of.
Yeah.
It does, don't it?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mountain View Meeting Place and our weekly Thursday night Club Possum show. We're so happy to have you all with us on this beautiful spring day here in Mountain View. And we have a very well-known entertainer on stage with us tonight. She's been playing music in and around Mountain View for a lot of years, and she's a very talented singer and songwriter. We hope you enjoy her. Will you please make welcome Miss Carolyn Carter.
Thank you. Thank you, Grisham. Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm going to start right off with a song I wrote a long time ago called River of Life. Daddy worked the line down in Arkansas, and I never saw him much, just supper and all. Mama tried hard and she never missed church, and they feared I'd go from bad to worse. And every day after school at 3, I was sent to my room, and there I'd be. And I'd lock my door and I'd take me a trip. It was a wayward journey on a wayward ship. The river of life has many streams. Which one do you take? Can you tell me? Which one do you turn to? Which one flows just right? I only saw the dark one in the middle of a stormy night. And I was told as a very small child, there ain't much in this world worthwhile. You gotta marry fast, you gotta marry young. There'll be many a sad song to be sung. The river of life has many streams. Which one do you take? Can you tell me? Which one do you turn to? Which one flows just right? I only saw the dark ones in the middle of a stormy night. The 40 years is done gone by, and I know now why my mama cried, and I know why Daddy never came home, and I know the curse of being alone. The river of life has many streams. Which one do you take? Can you tell me? Which one do you turn to? Which one flows just right? I only saw the dark ones in the middle of a stormy night. Which one do you turn to? Which one flows just right? I only saw the dark ones in the middle of a stormy night. Thank you. I was raised in a large musical family. most of you that know me already know this story. But my dad and his brothers and sisters would all gather in the evening and they would play music. The children, we had to go catch lightning bugs. So we didn't get to be involved in that. But now my mom, she was an only child and she couldn't carry a tune at all. She'd sat in a corner and I just would often see her sitting there. But the only tune I ever heard her hum when we was hanging out the clothes was an old gospel song. I'd hand her the clothespins. So I didn't write this song, but I'm going to sing it for you because it reminds me of her. Each day I do a golden deed, why helping those along the need. My life on earth is but a span, and so I'll do the best I can. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days and I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun while going down this weary road. I'll try to lift some traveler's load. I'll try to turn their night to day, make flowers bloom along the way. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days and I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun, where there will be no setting sun. Thank you. I have lots of relatives that ended up in California. A lot of people everywhere do. Times were hard, and a lot of the people moved to California. So my grandmother told us stories. She was said she was from the Osage people that lived along the Arkansas River around Fort Smith, Oklahoma. And as children, we never questioned her, so we don't, know too much about that. But she was a storyteller, and my dad was a storyteller. And Uncle Jay and Uncle Jack and some of them all moved to California. And this is a song I wrote about one of our family members that moved on to California. It is about a little cemetery. I do write songs about little cemeteries because I just think they're so beautiful for some reason. But I named this song Buttermilk Hill because that's what she called it. The daffodils are growing on Buttermilk Hill. A little cemetery resting there still. Dreams of corn and cotton in a starry winter night Snowfall on the mountain, wild geese in flight. Daniel left the valley in 1871 in a covered wagon with a wife and a son. The Civil War had ended, there was free land for them all. So Daniel hitched the horses and took off for Arkansas. They found a little cabin down on the Buffalo. Game and fish were plenty, not a crop they could not grow. Springtime brought the baby, a little girl so fair. Daniel had his dreams of ribbons in her hair. Daniel's son Josiah loved the woods and fields, but little Isabella loved the daffodils. They would sit for hours with their buttermilk and bread, talking about the stories from the Bible Mama read. Mama caught the fever, she grew listless and pale. Josiah could not fight it, he grew ill as well. God took Isabella on a starry winter night, with snowfall on the mountain, wild geese in flight. Daniel left the valley in 1883 in a covered wagon. He set the livestock free. Maybe California would be a good start, but on Buttermilk Hill in Arkansas is where he left his heart. Daffodils are growing on Buttermilk Hill, a little cemetery resting there still. Dreams of corn and cotton in a starry winter night, and snowfall on the mountain, wild geese in flight. Thank you. Keep looking at my little list here. This is a song I wrote also. We tell so many stories in that family. Some I'm sure are not true, and some I'm sure are true. This is a story called Cottonwood Valley instead of Buttermilk Hill. Cottonwood Valley. Now, the names and the situation have been changed to protect the innocent, so we'll see how this goes. Cottonwood Valley. Well, he met her in Cottonwood Valley at the dawn of a hot summer day. She was standing in a field picking flowers. It was Sunday, the 15th of May. A sage meadow under her bare feet, with a cotton dress a little too thin. The soft breeze carried her fragrance. It was love at first sight for him. But under the Mason-Dixon line, you better walk careful, my friend, 'cause you don't mess around with a southern boy's wife and live to tell of your sin. Well, by mid-morn her smile had enticed him. They met neath the cottonwood tree, and she told him her hard and sad story. From her husband she longed to be free, so she told him she always would love him if he would but take her away. So they made plans to leave in the morning. By dawn they'd be far, far away. But under the Mason-Dixon line, you better walk careful, my friend, 'cause you don't mess around with a southern boy's wife and live to tell of your sin. Both were caught just as the sun set. One caught her, one caught him, and the sound of the shotgun rang in her ears, and she fell to her knees in tears. Well, it happened in Cottonwood Valley at the close of a hot summer day, where a man lost his life for another man's wife on Sunday, the 15th of May. And under the Mason-Dixon line, you better walk careful, my friend, 'cause you don't mess around with a southern boy's wife and live to tell her your sin. Thank you. Thank you. For a few years, my husband and I, when we lived up here, we were in charge of, we worked with the Meals on Wheels program, and we loved it so much, and we got to know so many wonderful people. This is a song I wrote after visiting a lady. She's passed away now. Her name was Dorothy. Dorothy Thomas, I think. I can't remember her last name. But she was, she had a big, beautiful home full of lots of stuff, and nobody wanted it, right? And she was losing her eyesight, so she asked one of her grandkids to bring her tape recorder. She wanted to tape some stories. And let me just throw this in. Keep a journal. Everybody should keep a journal, because let me tell you, when our old folk are gone, our stories are gone. I have so many wonderful stories and wish that I had so many more, but keep a journal, you know, whether you put it to music or put it to poem or just keep a journal. But anyway, she told me when I delivered her mail one day, nobody wanted her stuff, and she said, I just have one prayer, that all my kids will be in heaven and they'll all sit around this table with me. So I wrote this song called Mother's Prayer. Little did I know that a few years later I'd lose my own daughter. And so, but the Lord knew, you know. But I wrote this song for Dorothy at the time, and I still like it. And it's called Mother's Prayer. Hope you enjoy it. And be careful, because I've wrote a lot of songs about a lot of Mountain View people. So, the sun came up this morning, just like the day before. A mama bird was singing outside my kitchen door. I picked up my one blue plate, my one set of silverware. With teary eyes, I bowed my head, went to the Lord in prayer. Lord, the doctors say I'm worse. I guess you already know. They say I don't have too much time. I should make plans before I go. Now, Lord, I've lived a good long life, and I never asked for much. But I'm asking for this last request that needs the Master's touch. Lord, please set a table for all my family. Put their names on their plates so that I can see. Bring 'em in, I don't care how or when, as long as we're all there to be with thee eternally, is this mother's prayer. Baby's born, baby's grown, where does this time go? Lord, it don't seem possible that I am growing old. Late at night I still dream of ribbons in her hair, of fishing poles and Tonka trucks and puppies everywhere. Lord, please set a table for all my family. Put their names on their plates so that I can see. And bring 'em in, I don't care how or when, as long as we're all there to be with thee eternally, is this mother's prayer. Lord, when it is time for me to go, I'll gently take your hand, and I'll proudly walk beside you, Lord, as you take me to that land. And I'll leave behind my old truck, some pictures and some land, and I'll ask you, Lord, to guide them, and beside them always stand. Lord, please set a table for all my family. Put their names on their plates so that I can see. Bring 'em in, I don't care how or when, as long as we're all there to be with thee eternally, is this mother's prayer. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do a song I wrote called Grandma Was the Preacher. I wrote this song, I was doing a Sunday singing down at the Sillamore Church down on Sillamore Creek years ago. And afterwards, they always have potluck, if any of you remember, or maybe they still do, I don't know. But so we were having potluck back there. And a lady walked up to me and she said, my grandma used to preach at this church. And she said that she wasn't given that gift. She was given another gift, a gift of gab, kind of, sort of, but she writes newspaper columns. It's free to cruise now. I think she lives in Calico Rock, I think. Anyway, isn't that where she lives? Grisham, maybe, I'm not sure, but anyway, she is such a sweet lady, and she told me the story that her grandma used to preach.
Frida Cruz Hardison is her name.
Okay, there you go. She's such a good lady. So here's a song I wrote. I went home and I wrote this song called Grandma Was the Preacher. Well, Grandma was the preacher down on Sillamore Creek. And all the men had gone to war, there was no one left to speak. Benches made of cedar, an old barn, an oil lamp, and everyone would be there, from the mayor to the tramp. And Grandma told the story about the Savior's birth. She told how Jesus lived and died upon this heathen earth. And she talked about salvation, she talked about Calvary. And Grandma'd always ask you, where you gonna spend eternity? Now the little blue-eyed girl was looking up into my face. She said, I come from a long line of women preachers saved by grace. But I guess my generation got looked over by the Lord. But I tell a pretty good story. If you're here, would you like to hear more? Well, Grandma used to baptize down in Sillamore Creek. And all the town would be there singing, bringing in the sheaves. A long line of sinners stepped into the river wide. And a long line of Christians stepped out on the other side. The day we buried Grandma, the sun was standing high, and all the birds were singing, not a cloud in the sky. And I know it might sound funny, but I swear I heard her say, make sure your heart is right, get ready for the judgment day. Well, Grandma was the preacher down on Sillamore Creek. Thank you. Thank you. So, another song I wrote about a Mountain View resident who's passed away. Like I said, y'all don't need to be telling me your stories now. I might write a song about you, unless you want it well known. That's all right, too. This was Leslie Sutterfield, was our neighbor. I don't know if anybody remembers Leslie. He was our neighbor when we lived up here. And he was a barber back in the 60s here in Mountain View. He was well up into his 90s when he passed away, and he told us this story about a road and a family that lived out by Green Mountain Road. There's a place out there that used to be called Money Jar Hollow, where a family tried to survive and did not, and one of the children stayed behind and ended up living out there. It was such an interesting story that I wrote a song about it, of course, and I call it Money Jar Road. The valley is sweet and green. Corn is as tall as I ever ever seen. And in the old house on the hill, everything is strangely still. Preacher man spoke that very morn, said you gotta be reborn. Emma sat on the second row, knowing things she should not know. And it's a story the town folk told about an old house in Coon Hollow on Money Jar Road. Well, Emma's daddy had gone out west, and Emma's mama said that was best. But she left with the other children in the early spring, told Emma to take care of everything. It's a story the town folk told about an old house in Coon Hollow on Money Jar Road. Worst came to worst, God forbid, Emma cooked moonshine and kept it hid. Folk would leave their money in an old fruit jar at the end of the road, first sign of the morning star. Young Deputy Eli tried to comfort Emma while she cried. The sheriff came to take her in. Well, he was never sent from again. Some say they ran away, some say they're there today, some say the fire burns bright and the traffic still rolls to the morning light. It's a story the town folk told that an old house in Coon Hollow on Money Jar Road. Thank you. The story of Emma's dad, which I didn't put in this song, was that he was what they call a goosebone prophet, and that's kind of like a weatherman. And so I didn't have anywhere to put that in the song, but I thought it was really interesting. So, and they did use the goose bones to predict weather, or quail, bob white, or sometime chicken. So, okay, this is a song wrote on the month of the yellow moon, my grandmother would call it, which was August. And she told us this story, how one of the boys went to the Boston Mountains, Boston Mountain Ridge, where there was a skirmish in the Civil War. And so I just thought it was an interesting song. My dad was the 7th son out of 12. Out of 11, one had died, really. Out of 12, but one had died. So I made him the main character in this song. And this song is called Lost Man's Creek. Born son number 7 in a line of 11 to a man named Jesse Lee. To an Indian mother with a heart of gold, he grew up fast and lame. Sun up, sun down, working on the farm, just enough to eat. Well, come midnight, he'd be slipping off to meet Rosalie, so sweet. And now Rosalie had a mean old pa, she was his only child. Her mama had died when she was young, she grew up sweet and wild. Sun up, sun down, working on the farm, just enough to eat. Well, come midnight, she'd be slipping off to meet Willie at the creek. They'd go down the mountain to the holler. He'd go first, then she'd follow. Moonlit nights, soft and sweet, down on Lost Man's Creek. War broke loose in Taylor County, and Willie had to go. He followed up to the Boston Mountains, General Isaac Pillow. Word came to him, Rosalie had given him a son. He knew that he'd be slipping off like an outlaw on the run. But Rosalie had left her mean old pa, and she took her baby boy. And she followed up to the Boston Ridge to find her only joy. And there in those foggy mountains, well, they met and slipped away. And the old man and the infantry still search for them today. They'd go down the mountain to the holler. He'd go first and then she'd follow. Moonlit nights, soft and sweet, down on Lost Man's Creek. Moonlit nights, soft and sweet, down on Lost Man's Creek. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a song I wrote about my husband's side of the family, the Carters, not Maybelle. This is some Henry Carters out of Osceola. But this is a story that his family told about great-grandpa Jacob Carter. He actually, the story came up when we looked at the old house that was still standing. It had boards on the windows and stuff. And so when they told us this story, of course, I wanted to write a song about it. And he's gone now. Mr. Carter's gone. So, but his grandson got to hear this song, and he really enjoyed it. So, Jacob Carter. The snow was falling hard on Humphrey Mountain. There was a blizzard blowing in all day round. Crops were gone, supplies were needed badly. The day that Jacob Carter went to town, he packed his mule with furs for the trading, and his old Kentucky rifle he held tight. The wolves were howling loud and getting hungry, and the winter sky was looking quite a sight. He said, Jackson, you be sure and board those windows. He said, Mama, keep the fire burning bright. He said, Mary, don't be scared and rock the baby, and the angels will watch over you by night. And now the journey down the mountain was a hard one, and there just weren't no dry wood to make a fire. The sun was setting low behind the treetops, and old Jacob, he lay down mighty tired. Just at dusk, the old mule started whining, and the hound dog, he jumped up and he growled low. Jacob never saw the big cat coming. He was dreaming of his family back home, saying, Jackson, you be sure and board those windows. Saying, Mama, keep the fire burning bright. Saying, Mary, don't be scared and rock the baby, and the angels will watch over you by night. Well, now these hills are filled with subdivisions, and the wagon tracks no longer can be seen. But there's an old house in the woods on Humphrey Mountain, and on a moonlit night you can see the angel wings. And there's boards on all the windows, and there's ashes in the fireplace standing high. There's an old rocking chair in the back room, and there's angels watching over it by night. Thank you. I'm seeing you yawning over there now. I have been known to put people to sleep. I was requested to make a lullaby CD one time, but I just can't help it. That's what the Lord gave me, and that's the way I am. So I try to write some different ones, but right now I'm going to do one that's called, this song is called Bridge Builder. And this song, my granny was very superstitious, her and her sister. And their granny was the doctor in the hills back in the days, and they had a ritual they would do when someone would get really sick and possibly going to die. But they would go out and find the white lilies. Usually these were the lily of the valley out in the wild. But they would put the white lilies in front of every window and every door to keep the good spirits in and the bad spirits out. And to this day, we grow white lilies still. But and then of course they always had the blackbird or the crow or the owl. Some of them was a bad sign. This song came from a story that someone was passing, and it was a traumatic death, and they always called the bridge builder, which was their granny, because it was someone who was having trouble passing, didn't want to go, something. Anyway, it's just a story that they would tell. So, of course, I wrote a song about it, and it's called The Bridge Builder. And if you can just kind of imagine their little old house out there with the lilies all around it, it was quite pretty. Full moon rising o'er the canyon, death bones rattle in the trees. The old grandmother brings the lily, her tangled hair blows in the breeze. Blackbird sits on the window, a sign they can no longer ignore. They all make way for the old grandmother as she lay the lily by the door. And she say, I be the bridge builder, I come to take you to the other side. Do not fear the old grandmother, death brought me here to be your guide. It is true, you seek a journey to a land of peace that knows no time. From the chains of struggles you are weary, a crossing you must find. But the earth is dark and unfamiliar, the road unsure beneath your feet. Take the hand of the old grandmother as this journey we complete. And she say, I be the bridge builder, I come to take you to the other side. Do not fear the old grandmother, death brought me here to be your guide. Blackbird lifted from the window, straight back to hell he flew. And as your spirit rose, you whispered, farewell, my friend, the bridge is in view. And she said, I be the bridge builder, I come to take you to the other side. Do not fear the old grandmother, death brought me here to be your guide. And she said, I be she said, Happy the bridge builder. Thank you. Odd little song there, but we all have some odd little people in our families, don't we? But it is interesting. Yeah, life's interesting. So I'll do a song for you I wrote called Great Wall of China. So it's a little trip I took when I was a child. When I was only 8 years old, my family took a trip to go see my Aunt Dinah, who I had never met. We drove and drove for most of the day, and oh, the sights I saw. But the grandest thing I ever seen was my Aunt Dinah's wall. She had Elvis in the east corner, John Wayne in the west. She had Jesus in the center, 'cause she said she liked him best. She had birds and bees and flowers and trees and plates of every size. She had rabbits and squirrels and hula girls and dear big brown eyes. And all the while I was a child, my favorite was Aunt Dinah. She had an all-inspiring, needed no wiring, Great Wall of China. She had a president with a ponytail and a princess dressed in white. She had a dog with a ponytail and a Christmas tree and lights. She had vegetables of every kind and 3 coins and a fountain. She had an Indian maid and an Indian brave pointing o'er the mountain. And all the while I was a child, my favorite was Aunt Dinah. She had an all-inspiring, needed no wiring, Great Wall of China. Some were cracked, some were chipped, some were almost new. And I think my favorite one of all was the little Dutch girl in blue. She had dogs and frogs and razorback hogs and an old boat named St. Mary. And every state had its own plate and a unicorn and a fairy. And all the while I was a child, my favorite was Aunt Dinah. She had an all-inspiring, needed no wiring, Great Wall of China. Thank you. I'm going to do a song for you, and then we're going to take a break so you can stretch your legs and get some popcorn and everything. This is a song I did not write, and I wish I had a. A farmer and a teacher, a harlot and a preacher, riding on that midnight bus down to Mexico. One was headed on vacation, one for higher education. 2 of them were searching for lost souls. That driver never ever saw the stop sign. 18-wheelers can't stop on a dime. There are 3 wooden crosses on the right side of the highway. Why there's not 4 of them, heaven only knows. not what you have when you leave this world behind you. It's what you leave behind you when you go. That farmer left a harvest, a home and 80 acres, and the faith and love of growing things in his young son's heart. That teacher left her wisdom in the minds of lots of children in hopes that they could find a better start. And that preacher man said, can't you see the promised land? As he lay that blood-stained Bible in that harlot's hands. There are 3 wooden crosses on the right side of the highway. Why there's not 4 of them, heaven only knows. It's not what you have when you leave this world behind you. It's what you leave behind you when you go. That's the story our preacher told last Sunday, as he held that blood-stained Bible up for all of us to see. Bless the farmer and the teacher and the preacher who gave this Bible to my mother, who read it to me. And there are 3 wooden crosses on the right side of the highway. Why there's not 4 of them, now I guess we know. It's not what you have when you leave this world behind you. It's what you leave behind you when you go. Thank you. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
I've been elected to talk instead of Mr. Chris tonight, so you get me. Okay, I was going to thank all of y'all for coming out tonight, and also for our patrons and sponsors that allow us to keep all the lights going and the sound equipment, and to Miss Carolyn for coming and playing tonight. Hasn't she done a great job? And there is a tip bucket back there, so you can show her how much you loved it, because we don't pay her anything. So, and then also there's a PayPal link for those of you that are watching online. And then we'll have a brand new group playing this Saturday at 7. They are called Just Us, and they were put on by request from Mr. J.C. Bond. So we haven't heard them yet, but I'm sure it'll be great. So be sure to come back then and get some popcorn or whatever.
another song that I wrote comes from this. The name of this song is called "Good Timber," and I wrote this song because I used to take a nap on the poor Jeff. Yeah, I used to take a nap on my granny's bed. On the wall was a picture of the Statue of Liberty. So that's where this song comes from, Good Timber. And all these places are in Arkansas that I'm in this song. Levi lives in a shanty high upon Blackberry Ridge. He brought 2 pack mule and a family, settled east of the swinging bridge. Spring, summer, winter, or fall, only the good timber grows tall. Abraham lives in a cavern near the icy waters of the buffalo. Spoke of this land as a great adventure, carried a fiddle everywhere he'd go. Good timber does not grow in ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. Their daddy's daddy came from across the sea with a working hand that could stop the clock of time, with a fire and desire to claim an untamed land. Good timber is hard to find. Good timber is hard to find. Becky's wagons got stuck in the holler, and her husband struggles with his mind. She turned those wagons into a cabin, learned to hunt, to fish, to survive. Spring, summer, winter, or fall, only the good timber grows tall. Millie lives in a boxcar in Rush Valley near the old zinc mine. Born on a cold December morning under the danger keep out sign. Good timber does not grow in ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. Their mama's mama came from across the sea with a working hand that could stop the clock of time, with a fire and desire to claim an untamed land. Good timber is hard to find. Good timber is hard to find. Thank you. Thank you. So, I know this lady that lives up on Highway 5. She was a good friend of mine. I hadn't seen her in several years, but I love her. Her name is Betty, and I wrote this song about her called Betty Grapevine. Now, she would walk to town. She lives quite a ways up Highway 5. If you're on your way going towards Shirley, on the left-hand side, you'll see some little sheds and a little old house, and in the trees everywhere. There's things hanging all over these trees, all kinds of things, and she makes them, and she gathers things up. Sometimes, one time she got in trouble for gathering up too much stuff. She gathered up somebody's grapevine while it still had grapes on it, so she got in a little trouble about that. But then she'd bring it all to town. She'd give it all away. She'd make little things and bring it to town, and she still lives up there as far as I know. My friend, Betty Grapevine. Out on no highway number 9 lives the famous Betty Grapevine. It is no doubt you will stop and stare at the magic in the air. Always a smile on her rugged old face as she waves to offer her trade. Hanging from every branch, every tree on the place are the treasures Betty made. And every evening while you're snug in bed, Betty runs the hills, picking up shiny little things, paper ribbons and strings, and old grapevine baskets she'll fill. Betty never had no electricity. Why start now? She'll say with a smile, I made 'em by moonlight, made 'em by firelight, been like that since I was a child. She's got love bells and death wells tied up in hawktails and twined in a muscadine vine. And the fruit of her labor, if you're a good neighbor, is a shot of her muscadine wine. And every evening while you're snug in bed, Betty runs the hills, picking up shiny little things, paper ribbons and strings, an old grapevine basket you'll fill. There's a little bit of bad blood in every good, a little bit of good in every bad. If you hold on tight with all your might, you'll never miss what you never had. Funny how Betty will know what you need. There'll be a medicine bag, willow rag hanging in your tree. When the bullfrog blinks twice, she'll know you are better. She'll come get her bag and she'll leave you a feather. And every evening while you're snug in bed, Betty runs the hills, picking up shiny little things, paper ribbons and strings, an old grapevine basket she'll fill. Thank you. So, my granny came from Kentucky. And when she made it to Crowley's Ridge, which is where I was born, Crowley's Ridge up by Paragould, Arkansas, they ended up living in the Greene County Poor Farm. Yep, there was poor farms, really. And they lived there until she was about 15, and she met my grandpa, who was plowing some land up there on Crowley's Ridge, and that's where they settled, and that's where we've all settled. So she liked to tell me the story. This is my granny on my mother's side. She was the only child, and she liked to tell me how she hated it here until she met my grandpa. So promised land. She came from Kentucky with her ma and her pa, with a heart and head full of dreams, with an aging grandmother and a newly come brother, born deep in the hills of Tennessee. They settled high on a ridge in East Arkansas, overlooking the valley below. They settled deep in the forest where the wild coyotes cry, with the purple mist wherever you go. Her troubles were many as she labored and toiled. To leave this hard place was her plan. She cried, Lord, please be with me, lead me along, take me to the promised land. She met him high on a ridge in East Arkansas, clearing land in the valley below. They settled deep in the forest where the wild coyotes cry, with the purple mist wherever you go. Now troubles are tools God sends that fuels our life as we journey along. And hard times are bitter if you ain't no quitter. You're gonna end up right where you belong. And now the years have moved on, the children are gone, and their evenings are quiet and still. And when the dishes are dry, she brings coffee and pie, and her touch still brings him a thrill. And when the old screen door opens, there's a smile in his eyes as he reaches for her hand. With the coyotes singing on the front porch, they're swinging, looking out for the promised land. Thank you. So part 2 of that song is called Arkansas Wilderness Wild. This story is about a cemetery. My grandparents settled there on Crowley's Ridge, and they had a family that came through that lost a child, and they buried their child there, and then they had to leave, and they asked my grandparents if they would take care of the grave, their child's grave. And my grandparents, of course, said yes, and then the next year my grandparents lost a child. So this is the story of the 2 little graves up there on Crowley's Ridge, where now there's a lot of our relatives buried up there, but it's a very old, beautiful graveyard. So I love to go up there, and we was up there just recently, and it's just one of those old, beautiful, way out in the woods graveyards. Arkansas Wilderness Wild. I open my eyes every sunrise to the song of the morning dove, and I close my eyes every evening listening to the whippoorwills cry for love. As I pondered on this, I recall a story an old woman told. Happened out on Blood Moon Mountain a long time ago. Hans Fitzgerald and his wife Gretel lost their only child, traveling across the Arkansas wilderness wild. Found a spot high on a hill, lay their little girl beneath the willow, and with bitter hearts, broken dreams, there they did settle. Now good young couple from across the way tried to ease their pain, but Gretel missed her mother. She cried every time it rained. So the good young couple promised they would fore'er look o'er the little grave. And Hans took Gretel back home to her mama, trying to be brave. And the morning dove said, I'll sing to her, I'll make my nest here in this tree. And the whippoorwill said, I'll cry for her, I'll be right here in the mist of the evening. Now the good young couple had a bone hard winter, lost their youngest child, trying to survive in the Arkansas wilderness wild. They knew the spot high on the ridge, so they took the little fellow and they lay him next to the other child in a little grave beneath the willow. And the morning dove said, I'll sing for him, I've made my nest here in this tree. And the whippoorwill said, I'll cry for him, I'll be right here in the mist of the evening. Now the years have passed and the two little graves were forgotten, and the woods grew still, and the river took the bridge, and the rocks fell free, and the old road disappeared. But when a blood-red moon rises o'er the bluff, there's a cold November chill. You can hear the sound of children playing on that hill. And there's morning doves everywhere. There's a nest on every limb of that old tree. And the whippoorwills fill the air. They cry and cry in the mist of the evening. So if you are ever wandering across the Arkansas wilderness wild, you may wonder, did I just hear a morning dove, or a whippoorwill, or a child? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to do a few requests. I'm going to do this one for my friends here, my Louisiana friends here. This is a song called The Quilt. I wrote this song a few years back when Jeff and I were living up. We bought 3 little acres up by Blanchard Springs, and we took our camper up there and tried to turn it into a place. And it was snowing. There was snow everywhere the first year. And he's a trapper. His family are trappers, and he was out checking traps. And I got out the quilts to put over the doors and the windows. And when I got out this one quilt, it was my granny's quilt. And in the end, she had Alzheimer's, and she loved that quilt, and I loved that quilt. And quilts have a long history all over the world, all kinds of stories and books and songs about quilts. So this is just to add to that long list. My song called The Quilt. There's a little yellow quilt at the foot of my bed. They tuck it neath my chin at night, fluff the pillow neath my head, and I hear them whisper quietly. It helps her sleep, it seems. It's the quilt my mama gave to me the day I turned 16. She wrapped it in her Sunday shawl, the one her mama made, and she laid it on my dresser at the end of the day. There's a picture of a countryside, an old house and a stream on the quilt my mama gave to me the day I turned 16. Blow, north wind, blow, take me to this place. It looks so warm, it looks so safe. My memory fails me, yet I still dream of the quilt my mama gave to me the day I turned 16. It went with me to college, it kept me warm at night, and when I ventured on my own, it kept my blue heart light, and I wrapped my babies in it, and I rocked them fast asleep in the quilt my mama gave to me the day I turned 16. Now here am I, and I am old, and this young girl cares for me. They say she is my daughter's child. How I long for that memory. So when I'm gone, I'll have them wrap my quilt up in my shawl and give it to this young girl who calls me Grandma. Blow, north wind, blow, take me to this place. It looks so warm, it looks so safe. My memory fails me, yet I still words my mama gave to me the day I turned 16. Thank you. This is a song I wrote coming down this highway from Blanchard Springs down to Sycamore one day, going down all those beautiful curves up there. I just thought, oh, that's so pretty. So I wrote this song called Wild Blue. Mama always said, girl, you're a hard one. And her dreams for me never did come true. But I learned as a child to live my life meek and mild, and I found my happiness in the wild blue. And I've always run these highways and byways, and there's always been one more town to go through. And I've always been attracted to those long winding roads that lead me to the wild blue. Daddy always said, girl, you're a strong one. You can do anything you want to do. But I never was much on fame and wealth and such. I found my happiness in the wild blue. And I've always run these highways and byways, and there's always been one more town to go through. And I've always been attracted to those long winding roads that lead me to the wild blue. Lead me to the wild blue. Thank you. Love to travel. Love to travel. I'm sorry. I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I love to travel a little bit. We did some little bit of traveling. I've just got one more song for you. I want to thank all of you for being here, listening to me. Thank you back there, Katie and Grisham, and thank you to the meeting place and Christopher and everybody. I'm just humbled y'all come out just to listen to me. So this is a song I did not write. The name of it's Call Me Friend. So I'll just leave you with that. Call me friend always. There is a lady who lives in our town. She lives alone above the grocery store. I used to see her walk in the evening, but I don't see her much anymore. People would talk about her reputation. They'd say hi, but that's where it would end. She'd come to church and sit on the back row. She never seemed to have too many friends. But just last Sunday after the preaching, the pastor invited the church to pray. Everyone gathered around the altar. She knelt down not 3 feet away. Well, I'd hardly begun when I was disturbed. I could not even finish my prayer. I could not help but to overhear her talking to God like he was standing there. She said, "Let me be perfectly honest. This world never cared much for me. I never had much wealth or honor or my name in lights for the world to see. I only lived a simple life, a humble beginning, a humble end. So let me be perfectly honest. What I really want is to call you friend." Later I saw her walk in the evening. She didn't seem so sad anymore. And I said, "Hi, I've been wanting to tell you. I heard your prayer last Sunday morning. Now I shouldn't have listened, but I wanted to say I'm believing in faith. Jesus heard your plea." She just smiled and she said, "Well, that's funny, 'cause what you heard was what God said to me." He said, "Let me be perfectly honest. This world never cared much for me. I never had much wealth or honor or my name in lights for the world to see. I only lived a simple life, a humble beginning, a humble end. So let me be perfectly honest. What I really want is to call you friend." Thank you, and good night, friends. Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming, folks. Be sure and come back and join us again sometime for more live music here at the Meet and Play. Good night and God bless.